Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are looking at an article from In These Times. Let's make sure I can see good. So, will lithium mining turn California's Salton Sea into a green energy sacrifice zone? Once a tourist destination, the Salton Sea faces ecological collapse, toxic dust storms, and maybe a lithium boom. An October storm of noxious dust sweeps across the desert, turning the sky sepia and choking out residents. Like water bodies across the west, the 340 square mile saline lake known as the Salton Sea is drying up as drought fueled by climate change further dwindles its inflow from the Colorado River basin. As the lake evaporates, its solution of pesticides, chemicals, and heavy metals grows more concentrated. Winds whip the hazardous lake bed dust into the air. More children here than anywhere else in California visit emergency rooms or are hospitalized with asthma-related illnesses. It's an environmental disaster with a decades-long history, but mining companies see something else in the perennially evaporating Salton Sea opportunity. They want to harvest the lithium-rich brine from beneath the lake and transform the Imperial Valley into Lithium Valley. Except the technology to mine the lithium safely and efficiently has not been proven, and so some residents worry their communities, already suffering from environmental destruction and institutional neglect, could become a sacrifice zone for the dirty part of green energy. And yeah, this is what you call liberal environmentalism, where you use liberal capitalism just to basically force people to go green energy, force the working class to go green energy rather, in order to not actually target the rich and the corporations who are actually attributing the most to climate change. But let's continue. The Salton Sea exists because of industrial meddling with the watershed in the past. More than 100 years ago, the Imperial Valley Press declared the region the most fertile body of arid land on the continent, and new settlers began parceling off acres for farming and creating a system of irrigation to bring their vision to life. And by farming, it probably means factory farming. The lake was created by accident in 1905 when floods broke a headgate on this irrigation canal and diverted part of the Colorado River into the basin. Later, Frank Sinatra vacationed there. That is like the most pointless line I've ever seen. Before and after that, the Salton Sea served as a military test zone, because of course it did. Over time, the flooded valley became increasingly salty, hot, and besieged with agriculture runoff and algae blooms, which killed off fish and migratory birds. Evaporation continues to concentrate this toxic cocktail and stands to steal 3/4 of the sea's current volume by 2030, intensifying the wind-blown air pollution. Now, the Salton Sea is thought to hold one of the largest reserves of lithium in the world. If the mineral can be extracted, this region, 120 miles east of San Diego, could supply more than a third of the world's current demand. Three companies, Berkshire Hathaway Renewables, Controlled Thermal Resources, and Energy Source, are racing for a chance to mine the increasingly valuable material from the sea's brine. And these three companies, you can see exactly how capitalism is benefiting off of liberal environmentalism, because it's literally just using climate change as an excuse for capitalism to make profits. But let's continue. The demand for lithium is being driven in part by the Inflation Reduction Act. Oh, great! I love when the left actually points out that Joe Biden's at fault, which aims to create a domestic battery supply chain. The Biden administration set a goal to make half of all new vehicles zero emissions by 2030 and has invoked the Defense Production Act to secure U.S. production of the needed minerals, including lithium. Now, if you're going to do that, The real question is, why wouldn't you nationalize the car companies and not allow private companies to be doing this themselves when the government is literally subsidizing private companies to do this? If taxpayer dollars are being used in order to make vehicles zero emissions, then the government should be using that taxpayer dollars to nationalize the car companies in order for the government to be in control of that, because you're using taxpayer money. We need to end our long-term reliance on China and other countries for inputs that will power the future. I agree. We need 75% of our economy relies on China, but Joe Biden does not care. He's a neoliberal. He's not trying to end anything with China other than start war with China. President Joe Biden said at March press conference. Maybe he actually does want to stop our reliance on China. In that case, so he can have the United States invade China. That's probably what Sleepy Joe's up to, considering the fact that he really wants war with China. The Inflation Reduction Act subsidizes the goal with $7,500 tax credit for electric vehicle buyers, but Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat from West Virginia, made sure those credits can only be applied if the vehicle batteries use minerals from the United States or a country with a U.S. free trade agreement. As if Joe Manchin is against neoliberalism. Currently, however, the United States mines only 1% of the world's lithium from one mine in western Nevada. Yeah, because leave everything to China while our economy is crumbling. Our workers are dying from a lack of a job, so that wouldn't make them workers. But people are dying from a lack of a job because the jobs were shipped overseas to China, where they're using slaves using slave labor in order to make our products and then sell it back to the United States. Brilliant. Thank you, Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan. Meeting the administration's goal depends on expanding domestic lithium. While lithium is considered crucial for a worldwide green energy transition, that doesn't mean the mining process itself is green or sustainable. In Chile's salt flats, where nearly a quarter of the global lithium supply is extracted, companies use a method called evaporative brine mining. The method involves pumping mineral-rich water into ponds where evaporation increases the concentration of lithium. The process uses immense amounts of scarce groundwater and can contaminate local water basins. Chile remains governed by Pinochet-era rules, which privatize minerals and water and have allowed mining companies in Salar de Atacama to consume 65% of the region's water supply. Sorry if I mispronounce some of this stuff. I'm American. And that's probably not a very good excuse, but I was taught by that kind of education. Indigenous peoples such as the Licking Ante consider water and brine to be sacred. In 2019, after Chilean Economic Development Agency encouraged the Sociedad Huánuca y Minera de Chile to triple its lithium extraction, indigenous protesters blocked access to the plants. Bringing this industry home presents similar issues. Yeah, it seems that a lot of countries that have been colonized by people from other countries tend to screw over the people that were originally from that country. Look what the United States does to the Native Americans on a daily basis. In the United States, 79% of lithium deposits are within 35 miles of Native American reservations and tribal lands. At Thacker Pass, Nevada, site of a proposed hard rock lithium mine, members of the local Fort McDermott, Paiute, and Shoshone tribe have opposed the project, which they claim sits atop ancestral remains of tens of northern Paiute that the U.S. government massacred there in 1865. Colonialism. The mining company Lithium Americas Corporation recently entered into a community benefits agreement with the tribe, but some members continue to push back. Member Shelley Harjo put it in this way in an op-ed. Are we willing to sacrifice sacred sites, health, and internal balance for short-term economic gains? That's literally all it is, yeah. In the Salton Sea area, 9 different native tribes occupied the basin, including the acres now submerged by water for thousands of years. Today, the Torres Martinez Desert Cayula Indian Reservation sits just north of the geothermal plants where lithium is already being extracted. In addition to lithium, the brine beneath the Salton Sea contains hazardous elements including arsenic, barium, and lead that some feared could contaminate the broader environment. At an online meeting of the Lithium Valley Commission, Farron Owl, a member of the Fort Yuma Quechan tribe, whose reservation lies to the southeast of the Salton Sea, raised concerns about the mining plans. Toxic waste, the gas emissions, the pollution are being put aside for the lithium demand. He said, while the state and federal governments ignore the underlying concerns of land, air, and water. That's basically what capitalism does. It just exploits the earth of its natural resources just for profit. So that's why you can't leave this stuff to private companies, because their whole idea is profit. It's the whole point in private companies. The 3 companies vying to massively expand lithium mining in the Salton Sea claim they will use a new process called direct lithium extraction, by which lithium is drawn from underground brine using filters, beads, solvents, or sorbents. Proponents of DLE say it saves time and money and is less environmentally damaging than evaporation brine mining. 10 years ago, Symbol Materials built the first demonstration plant at the site, but it folded after a failed acquisition by Tesla. Anything failed. Anything that would fail, Tesla has tried. More recently, a company called Lilac Solution, aided by $1 million from Jeff Bezos, Michael Bloomberg, and Bill Gates, because of course it is, tried its hands at DLE in the Salton Sea. If a profitable business, Bill Gates owns a little bit of everything. That guy's into Pfizer, that guy's into farming. The guy tries to own everything. It's all about centralizing power, centralizing all of your food resources and things like that, so you rely on the rich and the powerful. This August, the company deemed the hot, toxic brine too difficult to handle for both equipment and workers, calling the region a graveyard for lithium extraction. To this day, DLE technology has not been proven at scale. Maybe it is a lesser evil, but we need to know the negative impact, says Marilia Luria of nearby Coachella. As policy advocate for the Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability, Luria has listened to residents' concerns about lithium mining since before the official meetings of the Lithium Valley Commission. She says community members are worried about the environmental impacts of a lithium boom, such as air pollution, waste streams, and water usage, and they want a public health assessment to guide mitigation efforts. Adriana Torres-Seja, a former resident of the Salton Sea community of North Shore and a Leadership Council intern, is skeptical of the promises for going green from the industry. She says this vision feels in tension with the current reality in some local fence-line communities that lack clean drinking water and stable electricity. Why don't we fix those problems first before creating new ones? She adds, it doesn't seem like the climate is the number one thing on the company's mind. To me, it sounds like it's business profits. That's exactly what it is, and you cannot address climate change without an end to capitalism, because private companies will never address climate change because profit's all that's on their mind. For its part, the Lithium Valley Commission, a 14-person body tasked with analyzing the impacts of mining lithium and taking public comment, has put forth 44 initial recommendations, most of which urge the state to fund environmental oversight. The report also mentions incorporating reuse and recycling of materials. It's possible to recover lithium and other critical minerals at rates above 9%, thus reducing the drive for more extraction. Even if DLE technology works as promised, Reuters reports the plant owned by Controlled Thermal Resources would use 10 tons of water for every ton of lithium produced. Some residents worry this water use could accelerate the sea's decline. Asked about these concerns, Catherine Burnwith, Mayor Pro Tem of the nearby city of Imperial and an environmental scientist by day, claims that geothermal plants generate water from the leftover condensate that goes into their cooling towers. Additionally, she says upgrades the plants have made to local irrigation systems have helped conserve water that otherwise would have been lost to evaporation. Burnwith sees expanded lithium mining as a much-needed economic engine for the area. The Imperial Valley, where the population is 82% Latino, suffers from an unemployment rate 4 times greater than the rest of the state. We will do whatever we can to support industry, she says. But the valley has weathered a boom and bust of green energy investment before. When the solar industry came, it created temporary jobs and took a lot of farmland out of production, she says. The construction jobs that built power plants and solar farms failed to stick around. Our communities are adamant that the same mistake doesn't happen again. As the expansion of lithium mining in the area becomes more likely, many residents have shifted from resistance against extraction to agitating for community benefits. Luis Omeldo of the Community Health and Environmental Justice Organization, Comité Cívico del Valle, Civic Committee of the Valley, wants to see the industry's promises about jobs, environmental impacts, and profit sharing backed by enforceable documents. These are public dollars, public minerals in the public domain, he says. We want to make sure that they're not interpreted as well as just corporate welfare. It should be nationalized, is what it should be. He hopes the revenues reaped from lithium mining can be used for much needed infrastructure improvements such as hospitals and community centers, or even to buy back water rights for residents. Part of this, Omeldo says, can be accomplished through the kind of legally binding community benefit agreement suggested by the Lithium Valley Commission and through California's new lithium tax, which was fought by Controlled Thermal Resources and Energy Source but approved by Governor Gavin Newsom in June. Fake progressive is exactly what Gavin Newsom is. Despite the challenges, Omeldo says the Salton Sea community hopes to be a part of a just transition. We've been left behind, he says, and now we're being seen as the solution. And that concludes this. This was written by Paige Omek. Make sure you go check her out. And this is from In These Times magazine, a publication committed to informing and advancing movements for social, economic, racial, and environmental justice. And that concludes this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like button. This has been the Socialist Report. Peace out.